Today on the Big Six in 60, Indiana wins the national championship by beating Miami.
We have hyped it up. We've dreamt of this, but now it's reality.
The Titans hire Robert Saleh as their next head coach.
Robert Saleh isn't a perfect candidate, but he was the perfect man for the job with where the Tennessee Titans were at right now.
And the Seahawks lose Zach Charbonnet for the rest of the playoffs.
Seattle's going to have to do it, however, without its top touchdown scorer, Zach Charbonnet.
This is the Big Six in 60, the six biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big Six in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big Six in 60 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Indiana Hoosiers made history last night in one of the greatest sports stories we'll ever get. Indiana beat Miami to win the national championship and finish 16-0. And Jacob Goins goes over the crowning of a new champion on Locked On Hoosiers.
The Indiana Hoosiers. I want everybody to listen because we've talked about it. We have hyped it up. We've dreamt of this, but now it's reality. In the year and the season of 2025 and 2026, the Indiana football Hoosiers are national champions.
Here's the wild thing about it to me, Goins. When Curt Cignetti got hired, was there a single Hoosier fan that saw this coming or said this is the standard or this is the expectation? No. Was there a single national pundit, myself or others, that said he's going to go on to win a Big Ten and national championship? No, of course not. But Curt Cignetti is so likable in so many ways and is great for college football because the way his team plays is the way it looks like he approaches every single day at the office. Bull don't care. Just shows up and said, nope, this is what we're doing. This is the standard. This is the way it goes. I mean, this was not a discussion at all when he got hired. Not
even close.
No one had this on the radar. This is the greatest story in the history of college football. Period.
I think it's the biggest turnaround in the history of sports.
I don't know what's comparable, because the other thing too is you got to think this is college athletics. This is not the equivalent, though it's a great story. This is not like Dan Campbell taking the Lions, who, and by the way, he only got to the NFC Championship game, and that's incredible. I mean, watching that happen, my Mariners going to Game 7 of the ALCS, incredible. They didn't even make the final game or series, let alone win the whole thing.
Yeah. Doubling down from last year, right? Indiana winning all those games, getting to the playoff, and it was like, oh,
insane.
This was kind of cool. This was kind of fun. This year, the expectation was, okay, get a little bit further. Get to the playoff and win that big game. But my goodness, Spencer, did they win big game after big game after big game?
In every fashion.
They won them all. They won every single game on the schedule. Indiana is the first team in the history of this amazing sport to be 16-0.
And by the way, champions. There is no, conversation that can be had about, well, they got an easy playoff path. Nope. They did. Well, their regular season schedule. Nope. You can't say that either. There's nothing that you can lob accusationally against the Hoosiers. And they were the best team in college football this year, and they wound up winning. Can we go through the moments in this game? Because I'm sure Hoosier. I don't know when exactly you wanted to, but I just wanted to go through some of the moments in this game. And one thing that stood out to me about Indiana's big game consistency, their tight game consistency, the execution in key spots, third and fourth downs, defense comes up with it late. I watched all three sides of the ball carry the day for the Indiana Hoosiers. Special teams, brilliant. I think it was Indiana's best side of the ball for all four quarters.
That was the most inexperienced in terms of actual playing time this year.
Yeah, and I think it was the best side of the ball consistently for Indiana in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the fact that they almost missed an extra point, but didn't. All the field goals went in. The punt that pinned the Hurricanes inside the 10 sets up the block punt for the touchdown. You win the game by 6. I mean, at the end there, Miami's offense started rolling. Mm-hmm. I mean, really rolling.
How magical was it, though? How magical was it for the game to end on a Carson Beck interception?
Yeah, I mean
that's so storybook, like full circle moment. Like you start reading the book, it starts to take a turn, but you know it's going to make its way back. That's what happened in this game. That's what happened.
And you know what this game came down to? It is stuff that we talked about on our crossover segments on Monday. Well, earlier today, as you're listening to this. Indiana is a more disciplined football team. They're the most disciplined football team, and Miami couldn't make the mistakes, right? Miami played a heck of a football game. They really did. Yeah, you look at what Oregon and Alabama were able to do. No one played Indiana to a single-digit game this year, but Ohio State and Miami. So full credit there to Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes. The defensive ends, boy, they were good. Those two guys almost single-handedly kept Miami. Almost single-handedly won the national championship there. But the fact of the matter is Indiana got a touchdown. Why? Because they went from 3rd and 12 to 3rd and 7 after an offside to a handoff for a first down and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then there was a 3rd and long, and then it was a face mask. I think they overcame that one. But Carson Beck throws the interception. Mendoza didn't. Like that's really what this was. The team that everyone talked about as being more detail-oriented, better coached, fewer mistakes, not going to beat themselves. They didn't beat themselves. And Miami, it was a handful of plays, but guess what? When you're a prize fight like this, that's what it comes down to.
They added up. And Indiana's consistency and execution came down to being the difference in a game like this, where Indiana flat out did not play their best football. They played one of their worst games in the last 2 months, I think, especially on the offensive side, and give Miami a ton of credit, as we will. But that's where those things come into play. That's where the extra reps in spring, the workout over the summer, the longer practice in the fall, that's where those things come in, is at a 27-21 game when your defense is on the field having to get a stop to win a national championship. When it's 4th and 5 and your head coach says, nah, we're good. We don't want the field goal. Let's give it to our Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. And not only does he pick up yards, not only does he pick up the first down, he picked up the damn touchdown, and Indiana wins the national championship because of it. That's the craziest call I've ever seen in my entire life.
I was flabbergasted.
That is unbelievable.
That you called that on 4th and 5. What are you, Iowa? Sitting there going, we can't throw it, so we're going to have to run. I mean, ballsy.
Yes.
Ballsy.
Yes.
As can be from Mike Shanahan to put that call out there. And look, I don't think Indiana managed this game perfectly. Their staff, of course, won the day when it was all said and done, but it's the worst play call you've ever seen if they don't convert on 4th and 5. Mendoza gives a Herculean effort. Who's 78 on the Indiana offensive line?
You have Smith, you have Lynch, and then you have Coogan in the center right there, too.
Right. Who is number 78?
You're getting me on the spot here.
Okay. Look it up real quick. His name has to be set. But Kurt Signetti goes, no, we're going for it. All right, now we'll kick the field goal. Timeout. We don't want to delay again. You know what?
Yeah, Coogan, the center. Okay, that's what I thought. Coogan.
78 is Pat Coogan.
Right in the middle.
Notre Dame. There you go. He made the block.
You got a shout out from Marcus Freeman on the pregame show.
Block of the year on that quarterback draw. I mean, the length at which he holds a great Miami interior defensive lineman. I don't care which one it was. Miami's defensive front, I think, beat Indiana's O-line. In this game, they absolutely did.
Both tackles were horrific,
and so I just that play call, man. If it doesn't work, you're getting blasted if you lose the game, and instead Mendoza just gives you an effort. I mean,
27-21 final score. Indiana beats Miami in their home stadium, but did you notice who had more fans there?
I was about to shout out the Indiana fans, man. They traveled.
Yes, they did, to the most expensive game in the history of college football to get in the doors. An Indiana fan said, we don't care. And I don't even want to describe this, Spencer, as a once-in-a-lifetime thing, because Indiana's not going anywhere. And that's a conversation for after tonight, right? Yeah. We're celebrating this. We're celebrating this season. We're celebrating this game. But that is a conversation for down the road. Indiana fans believed. That's what it came down to. The Hoosiers fans showed up because they knew their team was going to win the national championship. And how romantic is it that the best team in the country won the national championship? Because that's not always the case. It's not always the case at all. But Indiana got it done 27-21. We're going to go through all those big moment plays. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth. We'll do likes and dislikes, of course, at the end. We'll kind of break all this down. I don't know exactly what direction we're going to go down the stretch. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you in here. So
we'll do it live
in the YouTube comments. You know
what?
We'll
do it live.
We'll do it live. Absolutely, we will. And you know, this game started basically like I thought it was going to, Spencer. How I predicted the Oregon game to start, that didn't go so well. This game, on the other hand, you're welcome. This game, on the other hand, slow offenses, great defensive plays, and just not a whole lot happening. Miami started, 0 for 8 on third down? They had scored on a non-third down play, but 0 for 8 on third down, and Indiana wasn't much better. It started really ugly, Spencer, and both defenses showed up to play like we thought they would.
The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a Profit Boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your Profit Boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bet feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. Carson Beck's interception on the final drive of the national championship ended the Miami Hurricanes season, but the U has found its place back on the national stage. Locked On Canes looks at the season and at what comes next in Coral Gables.
The reality is we just lost the Natty, 27-21, in a game we should have won. If you think about it, we lost the Natty because of a blocked punt and a missed field goal. A blocked punt and a missed field goal cost us the Natty. Now, there were a ton of penalties that were driving me nuts throughout the game, especially on defense. Third downs that extended drives and really just allowed them to score more points. And then the 2 fourth down conversions on that one late drive. But, man, oh, man, what a game, an all-time classic. It sucks to come up on the wrong side of it. There are all kinds of things that I can sit up here and complain about right now and things that I think went wrong in that game that should have gone right. And I said it all night long. In the fourth quarter, he got better, but Dawson was terrible. He was terrible tonight. He should not be the offensive coordinator anymore at the University of Miami. He should be gone, and he should be gone now. I mean, I just did not like the play calling at all. In the fourth quarter, made up for it a little bit. I liked the Mally Tony in motion and the misdirection to Fletcher. Hey, a misdirection, a counterplay. Imagine that. Anything besides the delayed middle draw. And then on that last drive of the game, why in the world do you forget about running the football? You say no timeouts, but they're only rushing 3 guys up front, and you have a chance. I don't know. I just felt like they should have mixed in a draw on that last drive, and that's where Dawson got exposed. Indiana, late in the game on these fourth downs, I mean, they scored the winning touchdown, Indiana did, on a quarterback draw on 4th and 5. You know what I'm saying? On 4th and 5, they run a quarterback draw, and it was just beautiful. So all kinds of things to talk about and go over with this game, but 27-21, the final. Miami loses in the Natty at home to Indiana. Oh, number 6 was so close, wasn't it? Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is over now, but FanDuel is the best place to get into the action throughout the playoffs and obviously every sport that you can possibly imagine. The NFL playoffs, obviously, in high gear right now as well. So visit FanDuel.com, get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. Obviously, this copy's old. NFL playoffs as well. All right, I'm Grease. This is the postcast. It sucks to be a Miami Hurricane at the moment because of the numbers you see in front of you. 27-21, we lose in the Natty, but it's great to be a Miami Hurricane. As you know, we're proud with this U, and our future is looking bright. I will tell you what, and we have a lot to talk about on this show. We're going to give you the numbers, going to give you the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, everything that happened in this game tonight, culminating in the Miami Hurricanes losing 27-21 in the national championship game to the Indiana Hoosiers. Grease, the postcast, let's roll.
This is what you'll be talking about.
These are some of the hardest shows in the world to do, by the way, when your team loses a game like this and you got to come on right after. So thank you guys for bearing with me. Just a real tough one, man. I really think Dawson sucks. I've said it all year. I said it all last year. They have the best talent in the country, this Miami Hurricanes team. And, you know, when you're getting exposed by the other team's coaching staffs, and look, the talent was so great on this year's team that we were able to put the playoff run together against Texas A&M, against Ohio State, against Ole Miss, coming back in a game that, and look, having to survive a Hail Mary in a game we should have won by 20-plus points. Same thing with SMU, should have won that game easily by a couple of touchdowns, and instead, just like the SMU game in overtime, or just this was more like the Louisville game in regulation where Beck throws the INT late to kill a potential game-winning drive. It was almost the exact same scenario as the Louisville game. And look, I mean, this team played to its personality tonight, and we're going to take you through everything that happened in this game. And when you think about really what happened tonight was Fernando Mendoza made plays when he had to. They get the 2 4th downs. I don't know. There's so many things, right? You could talk about the missed field goal. You know what I mean? Davis hits the upright in the first half from 50, plenty of leg on the kick. And then they give up the block punt for the touchdown. Alex Bauman just lets the guy go right by him. You know what I mean? And they block the punt. They score the touchdown. So the block punt touchdown and the missed field goal, that's a 10-point swing in a game you lost by 6. And yes, we did cover. We did cover no matter where you got us on that line. So thank God, a little bit of a dub for some of us tonight, but obviously hollow with the scoreboard being what it is. And 27-21, the final. Indiana came out looking real good in the first half, dominating Miami, right? This isn't what we've seen on the playoff run for the Hurricanes so far. You know, we have not, and I don't know if Alex is coming in tonight or not. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I haven't heard from him. I know he's on QAM as well, but the first national championship for the Indiana Hoosiers that wasn't won by Bob Knight and the basketball program. Unbelievable 16-0 season. Wow. You know, they've lost 715 games in the history of their program, up and down a seesaw game. And man, I really thought we were the better team on that field tonight, guys. I did, but give them credit. They blocked the punt when they had to. They picked the ball off late. That throw to Marion, though, from Beck was underthrown. And I don't understand, all right? I'm just, this one thing is where I really come down on Dawson. And again, I'm live right after the game, and I would love the opportunity to come back on and talk about this after I've had the chance to really, you know, go through it and go over it. But my initial reaction is we should have won that game by 2 touchdowns. We should have won that game by 2 touchdowns. It shouldn't have been close. Now, look, in the first half, they shut us down. They shiggity shut us down, right? In the first half, they did. They shut the run game down, but I didn't think we ran the ball enough. At one point in time, we went, and it was over an hour of actual time, but it was like a full quarter where Fletcher did not get a carry. He was the best player on the field tonight. I thought, didn't you think Mark Fletcher Jr. was the best player on the field tonight? You know, and then, you know, you're going down the field and you hold them, and everything's swinging in our direction, right? You're actually thinking, wow, man, oh man, like, you know, we outscore them 14-10 in the fourth quarter. They blocked the punt, you know, to score the touchdown. And it was really just a terrible, terrible thing, you know, that happened in this game tonight with Miami, because in the first half, you're not really getting any traction. You're not getting anything going offensively. They didn't let Beck do anything crazy with the ball, and they weren't, you know, nothing downfield at all, right? And I'm when I say they're not letting Beck do anything crazy with the ball, Dawson was very close to the vest with the middle draw all night long. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, what are you doing over and over and over again? And then you get away from it. And I just don't understand the play calling. But it is what it is, man. You know, they were really good offensively tonight when they needed to be. They scored touchdowns late in the game, to get within striking distance. I don't want to make this just negative, but they should have won this game. The block punt for a touchdown, that's inexcusable. How about the last drive of the game? You come out on your own 25-yard line, no timeouts, 2 minutes left in the game, less than 2 minutes left in the game, and you get a delay of game. I almost dropped an F-bomb. A delay of game to start the drive. I repeat, a delay of game to start the drive. That's the coaches. That is coaching, and that's Beck too, right? So that's inexcusable on Dawson's part. You don't have a play ready? Are you kidding me? You take a delay of game and make it 1st and 15, and then it just kind of, you're discombobulated. You're not really looking like you're sharp and ready to just go down and score at that moment. And you come out with the delay of game penalty on the opening play of the drive, and then you're out of sync. And, a couple of big plays from the receivers bail you out. Tony was phenomenal tonight. And look, on those last couple of drives, Carson Beck was great. That last interception deep down the sideline toward Marion was underthrown. Without a doubt, it was underthrown. He'd love to have that back. And you just thought, like, here's the fairy tale for Carson Beck, right? Because you'd think, like, if it's the fairy tale for Mendoza, the 12-play, 75-yard drive, 4th and 7, 4th and 5, the quarterback draw, he scores. That's his moment. The Heisman Trophy winner, he got blasted on that play, by the way. Got absolutely blasted. But, when I think about Mendoza scoring, that touchdown makes it 24-14, and you're like, oh, man. See, that block punt was huge because at that point in time, it's upping everything back to a 2-score lead for Indiana. And then Miami goes 8 plays, 91 yards, picks up the touchdown, and that made it 24-21. To me, I'm going nuts at this point. I'm literally going nuts.
The Titans hired their next coach in former Jets coach Robert Saleh. Locked on Titans host Tyler Rowland tells us what he thinks of the fit as Saleh gets another shot at running an NFL team.
Robert Saleh was not my number one candidate of the hiring cycle. Robert Saleh isn't a perfect candidate, but he was the perfect man for the job with where the Tennessee Titans were at right now. He brings so much to the table that the Tennessee Titans desperately need. And when it comes to one side of the ball or the other, Robert Saleh gives you a distinct schematic advantage. Number one, more important than anything, what have we talked about for months and months and months on this program? What have the Titans talked about? What has Mike Borgonzi, the general manager, talked about? What has Jeffrey Simmons talked about in the locker room? Leadership. Leadership is the key, and Robert Saleh, more than anything else, is a leader. Robert Saleh is a guy who has a ton of former players who talk all the time about how he lifted them up. He is pure positivity all the time, getting the most out of players. I talked to someone in the media that covered Robert Saleh with the New York Jets, and he said the number one thing is he gets the absolute best out of all of his players. Whether you're at the top of the roster, whether you're at the bottom of the roster, you're the 90th man on the team, Robert Saleh is going to pour into you and get the absolute best out of you. Now, look, who does that sound like? Sure does sound like Mike Vrabel. And I know that it would be easy to say, oh, well, the Tennessee Titans fired Mike Vrabel and then just went out and tried to find another Mike Vrabel. Well, that doesn't really sound like a bad plan right now, does it? That is something that good leaders do. They build their players up. They build their roster up. Whether you're the top guy or the bottom guy, it doesn't matter. You get the same support and love and encouragement. That is leadership. Being able to have the hard conversations, driving your guys to be better, doing it in a positive way. Robert Saleh is a pure leader. And whether it's his players in San Francisco, the players he had when he was with the New York Jets, across the board, every single person that you hear who talks about Robert Saleh talks about how great of a man he is, how great of a leader he is, and what they did or what he did for them to build them up and make them a better person and a better player. That is leadership, and that's what this franchise desperately needed. They needed a North Star. They needed a motivator. They needed somebody to be the face of the franchise, to be the driving force of the franchise, and Robert Saleh has that in his DNA. All right, Stone Cold Robert Saleh is here. I could not be more excited. Again, the leadership is a great thing. But the schematic advantage the Tennessee Titans just got on the defensive side of the ball, guys, you do not realize how incredibly genius this beautiful bald man is on the defensive side of the ball. I have mentioned it throughout the process when I talked about Saleh, who was one of my hype candidates. He may not have been my top candidate on the board, but when we did my hype, hate, and happy tiers for the coaching staff, Robert Saleh was 100% in my hype tier. So make no mistake about it. Robert Saleh may not be the perfect candidate, but I am hyped about this decision because of the defensive side of the ball. Look around the NFL right now. Look around the NFL. The defensive side of the ball is king right now. The offense has slowed down. Scoring has slowed down. Too high safety shows. Teams have to run the ball, putting a cap on the explosive plays. Defense rules the day, and Robert Saleh truly is a defensive mastermind. Again, I mentioned this stat throughout the process. In Robert Saleh's last 17 games as the head coach of the New York Jets, his last 17, he had the number one defense in EPA, number one defense in EPA per play. He leaves the next 16, 17 games for the Jets. They're last. They're last. This year in San Francisco, tons of injuries all over the board. They had nobody. They had a mash unit on defense. They were last in sacks, last in pressure rate. And yet Robert Saleh's defense was still incredible all year, and the San Francisco 49ers led that all the way to a playoff win. He shut down the Eagles' offense. They went 11-5, made the playoffs. Like, he took a mash unit and got the absolute most out of them. That proves that not only is he a defensive genius schematically, but again, the leadership to have literally a JV team on defense and still find a way to be excellent. That is leadership. That's what we're looking for. And you don't have to worry about him not calling defensive plays and losing that advantage. Saleh has said, I didn't call the plays the whole time when I was with the Jets. That was a mistake. I am calling plays. It keeps me connected to the game and connected to my players. Robert Saleh will call plays, so we're not going to lose that defensive genius and that defensive excellence. And that is critical. I have said it over and over and over again. I want someone who is the top schematic mind in their organization on one side of the ball, and that's what you get with Robert Saleh. So defensive genius and leadership. And if you want more than just this season, 5 out of the last 9 years with Robert Saleh running the defensive side of the ball, he had a top 5 defense in total D. That's total yards allowed. Top 5. 5 times out of the last 9 years. 5 times out of the last 9 years. Top 5 pass defense. He had one year where he was 11th as well. So we're talking about 6 out of the last 9 years. He's basically had a top 5 or top 10 pass defense. Putting you in a bottle. Absolutely fantastic. Those are the 2 key pillars here of why Robert Saleh was a great fit. Not only that, but the offensive connections. All right, the worry with a defensive-minded head coach. What are they going to do on offense? Who's going to be the head coach of the offense? Well, who has better connections in the NFL than Robert Saleh? Mike LaFleur, who's with the Rams. You get access to the Sean McVay tree. Clay Kubiak with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Kyle Shanahan might not let him go, so he might not be an option, but you're going to have a connection to other people in the Kyle Shanahan coaching staff and the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. Obviously, Mike McDaniel, who we're going to talk about at the end of the show, there are some reports out there that indicate Robert Saleh wants his buddy, his best friend, to come with him. And that's a buddy hire that I can approve of. You get access potentially to the Green Bay coaching tree under Matt LaFleur. Adam Stenovich, Luke Getsy, Bobby Slowick with the Houston Texans, or used to be with the Houston Texans, could be an option here as well. There is no one better suited on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL to find good offensive coordinator talent than Robert Saleh, which is the number one concern about Robert Saleh, is the offensive side of the ball. But that concern is limited by the fact that he has great connections. And then let me also say this. Let me say this. Robert Saleh hates with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. Jacksonville Jaguars coach Liam Cohen hates him. And I love that. Screw the Jaguars. Screw the Texans. Screw the Colts. Robert Saleh will beat up your... D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh would be quite the clash, right? But those two guys know each other very well. And Robert Saleh actually had a job on the Texans coaching staff before he got his big break as a defensive coordinator. So Robert Saleh is perfectly suited to come to the AFC South. He is going to bully Liam Cohen. And I cannot wait. Enjoy the cold, dark locker you are about to be shoved in, Jacksonville Jaguars fans. Hope you enjoyed the year. Robert Saleh's here. Boom. By God, that's Robert Saleh's music. But listen, what has me so excited about this is not only Robert Saleh as a candidate and what that means and his pros here, but the Tennessee Titans got this right. It wasn't a perfect process by any stretch of the imagination, but this shows that the Tennessee Titans are moving away from the Buddy hire system that would have led them to Matt Nagy and leading them to the best candidate possible. And this isn't the only example. The guy who hired Robert Saleh, Mike Borgonzi, also is an example of the Titans correcting their old way.
The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a Profit Boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your Profit Boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bet feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Seattle Seahawks look like true contenders going into the NFC Championship game against the Rams, but Seattle will have to win the last two games without running back Zach Charbonnet. Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith looks at the loss in the backfield.
The Seahawks are heading to the NFC title game, and they'll be battling the Los Angeles Rams' second straight playoff game that is a grudge match in the best division in the NFL, the NFC West, an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl. Seattle's going to have to do it, however, without its top touchdown scorer, Zach Charbonnet. Contrary to Mike McDonald's optimism we got after the game on Saturday, he is officially done for the season with a torn ACL, is going to need to have reconstructive knee surgery, and this is a substantial blow. And I know there's plenty of people out there said, well, look, this is a backup running back, but honestly, it's felt like 1A, 1B all season, especially with the way they've been running the ball as of late, averaging over 165 rushing yards per game in their last 4 wins. Rob, this is a substantial loss. There's no question about it. And I think just listening to Mike McDonald speak this morning on his radio show on Seattle Sports 710, this is one of those heart and soul guys for this football team. And he speaks with how he plays. He's a soft-spoken guy, but that his actions are where his words speak loudly. He is going to go out there and he's going to truck guys. He is going to break tackles. He is going to run through guys. He's kind of got that run through your face mask mentality that Marshawn Lynch brought to the equation, and guys feed off of that. So I think just as much as the production you've had, just his style, not having him out there for this game against the Rams. He scored a touchdown in that overtime win a few weeks ago. Had some big plays in that game. It is going to be tricky for Seattle to compensate for not having him out there because of how he complements Ken Walker III's style, and the fact that I don't know that Seattle has any other backs on the roster or in the practice squad that's going to be able to offer that same ferocity running the football.
Yeah, I think especially the ferocity running the football aspect of what you just said, Corbin, is is very accurate. You are not going to be able to replicate what number 26 brought to the Seahawks in terms of his physicality, in terms of his desire, in terms of his pass protection. He's a reliable receiver out of the backfield. You mentioned the touchdown against the Rams, obviously the famous, or in some people's minds, infamous 2-point conversion. Just the wherewithal and just the respect for the game to pick that football up. There's just so many things that Zach Charbonnet brings to the Seahawks that is larger than the idea that he is, quote unquote, just a backup running back. We've often talked about the fact that Seattle has one of the best 1-2 punches at the running back position in all of the NFL. And Kenneth Walker III has often been described as kind of the lightning guy, the speed guy. I mean, he's got this kind of almost like a Maserati type of a combination of change of direction, straight line speed. The San Francisco 49ers and surrendering 3 touchdowns to K9 this past weekend. They certainly saw that. But Zach Charbonnet is the 1-ton truck. And you used that word yourself just a moment ago in describing the way that Charbonnet plays. Look, the Seahawks have, several qualified running backs that are going to be able to fill in, for Zach Charbonnet. But it's the locker room presence that he provides that I think is going to be a little bit tougher to replace. Your heart's a little heavy just because I don't know that any player better epitomize Seattle's toughness and grit this season than Zach Charbonnet. That said, if there is one position where it does feel like the Seahawks have they're just rich in assets, I do think it's at the running back position. Now, whether it be a Velus Jones, a Cam Akers, a Jacardia Wright, a George Holani, the Seahawks have some talented running backs that they can call upon here. But I don't know that any of those aforementioned backs are going to be able to provide the combination of skills on and off the field that Zach Charbonnet capably provided the Seahawks, not only this season, but since the Seahawks made him a second-round selection a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I want to start with George Holani because right before we started recording this podcast, right before we went live, Mike McDonald currently is speaking with reporters at the VMAC, and he made it clear that George Holani is an option this week. He's been on injured reserve since November 29th with a hamstring injury. They didn't activate him or bring him back to practice last week, and I would think if we're going to have an update on that, it'll be coming tomorrow, early morning Wednesday at the very latest, because they're going to want to get him out there in the practice field. We might even hear about it today later if the Seahawks have an abbreviated practice today. We'll have a chance to see where George Holani potentially fits in. And I would think if Holani is healthy, that is your best fit to bring in because he knows this offense inside and out. And he had 22 carries before he got hurt. So the Seahawks were using him in the run game in more than just garbage time. He scored a touchdown in the first half against Arizona in week 10. Clint Kubiak's got a lot of faith in him, and he can pass protect. He can catch the football. He is a 3-down back, which the Seahawks are going to need somebody that can do that. Velus Jones is the 4-3 guy that's got the blazing speed, but has less than 20 career carries since he came into the league. He's been a receiver running back hybrid. You can utilize him as kind of a change of pace guy. Cam Akers is the most experienced back, but he hasn't been utilized much as a running back for the last 2.5 years. He hasn't had many carries, so you'd be leaning on early in his career experience rather than what he's done as of late. But he is playing the team that drafted him and initially let him go. So there may be some extra motivation for Cam Akers this week as well. But I'll also throw this out there. They might call in Myles Gaskin again on speed dial. I don't know that he would be a guy they would have playing in this game, but just to get more depth to put on the practice squad. And he played in a game earlier this year, had a couple carries in that game. So there's some names we can throw out there. I think the one thing we know is there's not going to be a Marshawn Lynch returning this time, or Chris Carson coming out of retirement with his neck issue. Like, not going to be seeing any of that stuff. But I would hedge bets right now that George Holani is going to be activated. And Seattle's got Ken Walker III, and that's it right now. So you're going to see 2 of these guys on the roster on Sunday. Well, whether it's going to be Velus Jones and George Holani, or George Holani and Cam Akers, or maybe it ends up being Akers and Jones are the two, and they don't activate George Holani. Maybe all three of them are in uniform with some practice squad elevations. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Seattle goes about it. They're going to have to do a by-committee approach, though, Rob, to be able to replace Zach Charbonnet with what he brings to the table. You're going to have to mix and match, and you're going to have to really lean heavy on K9.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I think that a guy like Velus Jones, just the fact that he's a 4.3 speed kind of a guy. Look, we know that Kenneth Walker III has historically struggled with durability himself. So that's why I think that this should not just be thinking about how do you replace Zach Charbonnet. I think you have to be considering what happens if K9 goes down. And not that Velus Jones has any kind of history of being a feature back. To me, that's where you want to look at more of a Holani or a Cam Akers. They do have more experience in that regard. But Velus Jones was the back that was active for the Seahawks this past weekend against the San Francisco 49ers, number 32. And, you know, this is a player that was as highly regarded as it gets. I mean, he began his college career at USC, went to Tennessee. You mentioned the fact that he was kind of a running back receiver hybrid. He's also got some return ability to him as well. 6 foot, 203 pounder, that really is a dynamic, make you miss kind of a guy. Made some splashy plays for the Seahawks when he got in on late opportunities against the Atlanta Falcons. He made a couple of runs that really jumped out to me, at least. I think that the Seahawks are ultimately going to have to bring in at least two of these backs, and I wouldn't be surprised even if there's a third back, because I think that you're going to see Seattle lean on the running game against the Los Angeles Rams, similar to what the Chicago Bears tried to do against LA, and obviously the way that Seattle has run the ball so effectively here for the past month or so in a row, including a victory at Lumen Field against the Rams.
The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a Profit Boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your Profit Boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bet feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Lions have found their next offensive coordinator in former Cardinals OC Drew Petzing. Will he be able to fill the shoes Ben Johnson left behind in Detroit? Matt Derry looks at the hire on Locked On Lions.
Let's discuss Dr. Drew setting up an office at 222 Rodwood Drive. Yes, Drew Petzing, 38 years of age, coming over from the Arizona Cardinals, where for the last 3 years he was Jonathan Gannon's offensive coordinator. Drew Petzing is your new OC. So it's not Mike McDaniel. It's not Mike Kafka. It's not Brian Dable. It's not Zach Robinson, T. Martin, any of the folks that the Lions were looking at. All right. And there were 7 names that were kind of linked to the Lions, yet Detroit goes outside the box and secretly, to be honest, hires Drew Petzing for this job. He, of course, replaces John Morton, who lasted 1 year. And Drew Petzing is a guy that when you want to talk about this hire, the first thing that has to be said is that he fits what the Lions want to do and have been doing. Drew Petzing is an under center offensive coordinator. Drew Petzing loves the run game. All right. Arizona Cardinals, in 2 of the 3 seasons that Petzing was the offensive coordinator, the Cardinals were a top 12 run team. All right. 2 years ago in 2024, they were number 2 in the league in rushing, in average yards per attempt over 5 a game with James Conner. This year, the Arizona Cardinals offense was basically one person. It was basically Trey McBride. He loves tight ends. He loves under center football. He loves 12 personnel, and he's very, very consistent, and he's a fit for this franchise. All right. How do I feel about it? I'm meh on this hire. I think he's fine. I was hoping to see a little bit more dynamic. I was hoping to see a little bit more something, outside the box. Here's the thing. Drew Petzing is not going to be leaving anytime soon for a head coaching job. All right. There's things he does well. There's things that Arizona Cardinals fans were unhappy about this past year when it came to creativity, when it came to aggressiveness. All right. And Jonathan Gannon and he, it didn't work in Arizona. All right. And a lot of it was not Petzing's fault. Number one, he had to coach a quarterback in Kyler Murray that was never healthy. But again, there was some success over the 3 years, like I said, with a guy like Trey McBride, who this year just absolutely blew up at the tight end position to the point of 106 catches, 1,070 yards, and 5 touchdowns averaged over the last 3 years. Trey McBride is a stud, and he used the tight ends very, very well. And he's going to fit what the Lions do. All right, which is they want to run the football. They want Goff under center, not all the time, right? But Petzing is a good fit for what the Lions already are. And that's probably why they did this. All right, a guy like Zach Robinson in Atlanta, there's more RPO stuff there. There's more 4 or 5 wide receiver stuff there that Atlanta did. Petzing fits the bill. It is not sexy by any stretch of the imagination. It's not exciting by any stretch of the imagination. It's a solid hire. And it's a fit hire for Dan Campbell. All right. Steady commitment to the run game. And let me correct myself. In 2 of the 3 seasons in Arizona, they were top 10 rushing. Cardinals ranked near the top of the league in 2 tight ends and 3 tight end deployment. So Sam Laporta's got to be thrilled with this hire because this guy wants to use the tight end. He got so much out of Trey McBride this year that he was a first-team All-Pro. And one thing that Petzing did very well, and I'm going to talk about Ben Steele in a second, and that's a name that I want you to remember. And I'm going to just bookmark Elijah Higgins for a second. Bookmark that. I'm coming back to it. But they utilize the tight end very well. And this year, with Jacoby Brissett having to be the quarterback and James Conner hurt for a lot of the year and having to use backup running backs for most of the year and guys off the street, the Cardinals did all they could, right? So this is not a sexy selection. I'm okay with it, but I'm going to be more okay with it if Petzing brings his tight ends coach with him. And I'm going to talk about that as the next move coming up next. But bottom line here is the following. The Lions are not going to veer from what they do. And give the Lions credit for something. They interviewed 7 or 8 guys. All right. They didn't just go out and hire. Last year, they screwed up. They really screwed up. They went out and hired a guy in John Morton that they knew. It wasn't right away per se. I think it was actually later in January than, like what they're doing now with Petzing. Today's the 19th. I think Morton was hired on the 30th. But the Lions a year ago should have casted a wider net and not just played buddy ball. All right. But this is a guy that at 38 years of age, highly respected around the league. He worked for Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota. Stefanski loves him. Guess who else he worked with? Guess who else he's buddies with? That's right. Benedict. Ben Johnson and Petzing were co-coaches at Boston College. They're so close. Petzing was in Ben Johnson's wedding years ago. Was one of the groomsmen. I don't know if Dan Campbell called up Ben Johnson and they had a conversation about it, but Petzing's on that tree. Norv Turner tree, Kevin Stefanski tree. That's where Petzing has been. A lot of different places, and went from Cleveland. He was in Minnesota with Stefanski when Stefanski was the OC. Went to Cleveland with Stefanski when he took the head coaching job. And he was 2 years as the tight ends coach there, and then was the quarterbacks coach in 2021. And he coached Jacoby Brissett for 11 games in Cleveland, where they went 7-10, and then went to Arizona with Jonathan Gannon and spent 3 years there. And again, having to deal with the Kyler Murray situation where when Murray was healthy in one of the 3 years that Petzing was the OC in Arizona, Cardinals offense was 12th in scoring. That was 2024. This year, basically, Murray was out most of the year, and they had Brissett playing, and they survived. So Drew Petzing, the new offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, not a name that many people thought would be considered.
The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bet feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Warriors picked up a win Monday night, but lost one of their stars in the process. Jimmy Butler suffered a torn ACL that ends his season, and Charlie Walter goes over the impact on Locked On Warriors.
The Warriors are climbing back into contention of not playing in a play-in tournament and being in the playoffs. They're really executing well right now. They're getting ready to potentially make a trade. Like, all things should be excited in Warriors world. Unfortunately, Jimmy Butler goes down. He's holding his knee, extreme pain, and an MRI is really going to determine the severity of this and really the outlook on the rest of the season. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Kolsky. Without Jimmy Butler, what are we doing?
Not much. I mean, yeah, it's this MRI. I mean, we've already got doctors in the comment section saying what I think is probably pretty clear to most people who've watched a lot of basketball, which is that in all likelihood, it's ACL or MCL, sprain or tear. But the distinction between those options are dramatic. You know, if it's an ACL tear, certainly he's done for this season and probably the start of next season. If it's an MCL sprain, maybe he's back in a few weeks, and then you're not quite as worried, especially considering how well some of these role players are playing. So, you know, I don't want to speculate on where in that range it's going to fall because I have no idea, but that's going to make a difference between a team that, like you said, is hot and ready to make a run and at least be a threat in the playoffs, and a team that, gosh, without Jimmy, I don't even know what they are. Are they a play-in team? I'm not sure. I'm not sure they are.
And it's also moving forward. Like, you have him on the books for 58 whatever million it is next year. I would imagine that unless you throw crazy amount of picks to a very stinky team's way, you're not going to be able to get rid of that contract if he's out for the majority of next season. I mean, this thing is it's likely finito. I mean, you got to just kind of think about actually blowing it up at a certain point if that's the case. And call me crazy, Kolsky, but if it's a torn ACL, Jimmy Butler's out for the season, I don't know what else you do. Like, I hate to hit
but
the
what does that
panic button
mean?
right then and
I mean, I hear you philosophically, right? Like, if the season's done, you know, do what you can before the trade deadline to kind of tank and get whatever assets you can get in return. But if you're
Can I rephrase that? Maybe don't blow it up, but don't give out any draft picks. Let's say that. Don't be irresponsible because you're not going anywhere.
Okay. So if you can get Michael Porter for a first rounder and Jonathan Kuminga and, I don't know, Moses Moody, whatever it is, you're not doing that anymore.
Without Jimmy Butler, probably not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting question. Because, I'm not to pick on you, but people use the phrase blow it up, right? And as far as the Warriors are concerned,
something crazy is going to happen here, Kolsky, because
I don't know what that means.
You're going to pull up the comment on the screen of that crazy thing that could happen. Because we've heard for the longest time now that Jonathan Kuminga doesn't fit, right? Because of Jimmy Butler. He does not fit. If Jimmy Butler's out for the season with an ACL, all of a sudden he fits. I mean,
right. I mean, this is a fascinating question because undeniably they need what he does if Jimmy's not available for an extended period of time. Do not misunderstand me. Jonathan Kuminga is nowhere near. I mean, he's done nothing in this league, basically. And Jimmy Butler's a Hall of Famer. So it's not that they're comparable as players, but, big 3/4 who can get to the free throw line better than most of the people on the team. And at least from a one-on-one perspective, defend some tough perimeter guys and just score. I mean, I don't, but at the same time, the idea of he didn't fit before, but maybe now that Jimmy's gone, that fit has never really been the problem here. Let's be totally honest. The problem is the coach doesn't like him. So I don't think he's going to play still. But if we're watching, especially with Guy Santos out too, if we're watching 4-guard lineups with Pat Spencer playing 25 minutes a night and the team can't score, I can't understand how anyone looks at that and doesn't think the Warriors look stupid as an organization. So it's a really awkward spot. And hopefully for that and 1,000 other reasons, this is a minor injury, much less than it looked like. But I think we have to be honest that the combination of Steve Kerr's distaste for the player and the front office's insistence on maintaining a certain valuation of the player has put the franchise in a terrible position. Whatever you think of Jonathan Kuminga, the way his whole deal has been handled for 4.5 years now has put not only the player, but the organization in just an absolute garbage situation. And the Warriors have nobody but themselves to blame for that.
Well, you've won 6 of your last 7 at this point, 6-1 on the homestand. This wasn't even a topic that was brought up 48 hours ago because we were talking about Jimmy Butler and we were talking about Curry and we were talking about the team winning games. But now it kind of rears its ugly head, right? When you got a guy sitting on the bench that plays the same exact position, that's still technically on your team, whether he's a verbal trade or not, until he's actually traded, he's still on your team. And now you do kind of need him to a certain degree, or you need him to at least go somewhere else that nets you someone in return that you can have for the future. But if you don't have Jimmy Butler on the team, I think he's an excellent player. I think he was kind of the complementary piece that this team needed to really turn things around last year. And without him, I don't care if you bring in Michael Porter Jr. I don't care if you bring in Grayson Allen. I don't care if you bring in Malik Monk. It's over. You're not winning an NBA championship. You're not competing for an NBA championship. And if you're not doing both those things, you're not giving up first-round assets. If you are, then you're stupid.
Yeah. I think I probably agree with you. I mean, if Jimmy Butler is really out for the season, and again, we're speculating, but it doesn't seem, nobody's going to be surprised if that's the news. It's hard to imagine any scenario where this turns into a threat in the playoffs. It's just difficult to picture it. So you're probably right. You would not want to sacrifice those assets now because you're going to want to get a look at things in the summer. And, there's always more that you can do in the summer. And no, that doesn't mean you're giving up on the rest of Steph's career. No, but there's just not going to be enough that you can do at the trade deadline if Butler's out. There's not going to be enough to do. You're not going to be able to trade him, moments after he hurts himself and is out for an extended period of time, especially at his age. You're not going to be able to get enough for Kuminga to not. We were talking about with Jimmy Butler, they need to get better, right? So that's really all you need to hear. Without Jimmy Butler, there's no opportunity to get better enough to be a legitimate playoff threat. There just isn't.
One thing that would help is if Podziemski keeps playing like he's been playing the last week. He had 24 off the bench tonight. Let's tell you about his performance. Let's talk the good. The win, I know it's overshadowed by an injury, but the Dubs did dominate 135-112 over the Miami Heat. We haven't even gotten into the game. Let's get into that. We'll take your comments on Jimmy Butler. And honestly, everyone, find wood, knock on it. Until the fat lady sings, Jimmy Butler's okay. He was laughing coming off the floor. Him and Buddy Hield, they had a moment that was caught on like the stream of basically Jimmy saying, "Shut your ass up," as he's down with potentially an ACL tear. They're still having fun with each other. He was laughing, smiling, being helped off the floor. So you hope for the best, but you kind of expect the worst.
That's all for today's Big 6 in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, or on campus going up every weekend just like we do here. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 6 in 60.